We're now in an era where many of us are living to a ripe old age. But when we retire from employment and receive our bus pass, does that really mean that we retire from life? It doesn't look like these ladies have done that. Maybe there is hope for all of us. I'm Joel Kibazo, and I'll be traveling around the country to meet a few people who can give us some ideas about what retirement can mean. Starting in Bristol, I'm meeting Mr. Mani Adibe, who came here from Nigeria more than 30 years ago.
It's a sort of very grey day in Bristol.
I came to England as a volunteer.
Yes.
And that is in my blood, really. I come from a background that served people. My father is chief of Igosu Ofa, and that is in my blood.
So serving people.
Yeah.
You know, especially as a son
I
of a
derive
chief.
joy in serving people. It gives me pleasure.
Does that mean that I can see you serving in some form or the other beyond the age of 100?
There is history of longevity in my family. As long as God gives me the strength, the mental capacity, I will continue to serve. As long as I have the ability.
Now, what would you say to someone like me who's thinking, well, I'm in the 30s now, but later on in life, you know, I'm looking forward to retirement. Should I be looking forward to retirement or not?
That depends on individual way of thinking or what you call retirement. Right from my youth, work and play have been matched together in my life. And I do not see myself as somebody who is working or who is playing. I'm always on the go, doing something. But when I was working in Bristol here, I spent a lot of time in the pub because that was where most of my clients go.
Right.
In the shebeen at night.
But it was pleasurable in the pub, wasn't it?
I make pleasure with work.
Right. Okay.
If I do not go there, I will not see the clients.
Yeah.
Manny is still sought out for advice in the pub.
2.5 years.
And how long have you been doing it now?
I've been doing it for about 9 months.
9 months.
Hold up.
We are in a land of opportunity. It's very good you are pursuing a profession now. If you do not have something to give other people, people don't want to know you. But if you have something to give, you are just like a bird that has got wings. If there's no food on this field, you can fly and go to another field and you get food there. But if you are stuck on the same spot, you find that you begin to revolve on the same spot. And by revolving, you are creating a hole.
And then you
and
fall
the more
in it.
you fall into the hole. If I had the opportunity you have now, I'd be greater than what I am today. But I didn't have that opportunity. Before I retired as chair of Bristol Racial Equality Council, I was interested in that because I felt the only way one can contribute to the development of a society is to be part of it. Revolution cannot come from outside. You have to be inside to bring about revolution. I go home every year, as I said. My father is getting very old now. And in the normal way, when he dies, I take over from him. So I need to keep close to my people at home. And people are looking forward. They'll be very proud to have me as their chief. With all my experience abroad, all my experience in life, they are looking forward to a sort of revolution when I take over.
You're going to change things?
I will not change things in the way people think, but I will modernize a lot of things.
They were there. Yeah.
I've really been inspired by Manny. He retired more than 2 years ago, and yet he still remains very active in the community in which he has chosen to make his life. And not only that, he remains firmly attached to Nigeria, where he still hopes to return and take up even more responsibilities. I've just arrived in Cardiff and I'm on my way to see Mrs. Campbell.
She's a former headmistress and, from what I gather, quite formidable. So I suppose I better be on my best behavior. Actually, I needn't have worried. She's absolutely charming.
I've now decided I'm helping my community.
Isn't
They're
that
the
what
ones
is called
who-
a political answer?
It is a political answer, but it's a true one. It's a true answer.
So does that mean you're not a member of the Labour Party anymore?
No, I'm not a member of the Labour Party. I resigned before I was expelled.
Oh. Oh, see,
And I see in the papers that Ken Livingstone's been offered a chance to go back after 5 years. I've never been offered that prerogative. It's 10 years now.
Mrs. Campbell retired this year, but not one to sit still. She now has political responsibilities.
Yeah, oh, right, oh good.
You might have retired on April the 1st, but you have a new role since then.
Yes, on May the 8th I was elected councillor for Bute Town. And of course with the new development it's being called Cardiff Bay. And the Welsh Assembly, whether anyone likes it or not, it's in my ward. So it's becoming a very prestigious place to be councillor of. And I'm also hoping, well, I will be opening my art and education centre. I've been trying for a long time to get that going. And now we've had a little bit of funding. We will have a proper programme starting in September.
You were elected as a councillor. What made you stand?
What made me stand? Well, I was a councillor in 1991 for 5 years, and then I couldn't stand again because we became a unity authority. And this time, retirement was coming up, and I thought to myself, well, I've always worked for my community since I was 14 years of age. I'm always doing things. So I thought, well, now you can give the community much more time by becoming a councillor. I was an independent. I ran as an independent, and when you run as an independent, as Ken Livingstone knows, you always take a chance. You can be defeated and have egg on your face, or if you win, then you can go ahead with what you want to do. And I was fortunate enough, thanks to the people of Bute Town, all nationalities, who gave me their support, I was able to win, and I think that I am doing them as good a service as I possibly can.
So what do you say to somebody who says, look, Betty, you've served your community already in all these years, since the age of 14. Why don't you just put your feet up?
Life's too short as it is, and to put your feet up, you'd be making it even shorter. No, there are too many. I think there's a fallacy about the fact that when you're 60, or when you're 65, as I am, that you can't do anything. For me now, life is just beginning all over again, in a different way, a different role. I'm meeting different people. I'm still active. And I think the pleasure that I get is when someone in the community says, oh, thanks, Bet, for doing that for me. Or when you've been involved in a project and you see it come to fruition.
You have a busy life here in the council and with the Art and Education Centre. What motivates you to keep going?
I think in some ways, I always feel that you've got to prove yourself. If you're black, you've got to prove that you can do this as good as, if not better. And I remember when I became a head teacher, I realised that. I was the first one who'd been appointed in Cardiff, and I realised that I had to do things to work much harder maybe than another head teacher. And what I've been driven by is the fact that I will not have people thinking that because you're black, you can't do things quite as good as your white counterpart. And I think that's something that's driven me all along, all my life. And the other thing is, with the Bute Town area, we've often been castigated by the press. If something happens here, oh, it's blown up out of all proportion. And there are people in Cardiff who sometimes seem to think we're second-class citizens. And all I'm proving with my Art and Education Centre is that there's talent in Bute Town, because nearly everything we're going to do there is going to be run by local people. It isn't a very big place, but we still feel that we can accomplish quite a lot. One of the main things we're having is a gardening club for the children.
What about the drawings on the wall? What are they?
Well, those mosaics were done last July by children from two schools, Mount Stewart School and St Mary's, and they worked with an artist in residence.
Is this, Betty, what you think is going to help you move on to the next part of your life?
Oh yes, it's definitely a new challenge for me, and I'll tell you why. First of all, one of the main things that I'm going to do is to ensure that children have a background of their own history. That is why I want to take
This is Black history.
Black studies, Black history here. But also, there is very many talented children in the area in art and music, and I hope that this place will just be a stepping off stone for them.
I'm sure with Betty behind it, the centre will be a great success, and at a youth for 65, she'll remain a force to be reckoned with for many years to come. I've been told Mrs. Lim has a passion for learning and exercise.
Breathe in
I just wish I'd trained for this meeting.
and out. And then you sit on your buttock. Relax. You can't sit.
This is not what.
So I said, I gave up my job. Then I thought, I want to study. What am I going to study? I don't know. I don't know the English people. And since I came, I always went to evening class.
Right.
And so I contacted my teacher who was teaching me how to write creative writing. I said, I want to study. So she gave me 3 addresses, Wales, Oxford, and a women's college. Wales replied, full. Women's college, I applied, the woman interviewed me. And then she said she'd take me. She smoked like a chimney, and with all the women, yep. And I came home, and my neighbor, not this lady, you know, it was an English lady. Shubao, don't accept it. Wait for Oxford. I said, I'm 50. And this one accept me, I don't take it. And if that one doesn't come, then I'd lose a chance, isn't it? And there I met a Dominican monk from Oxford. And he said, wait. And that's what he did. He said, wait, Shupa, wait for the Oxford.
Yeah.
I waited, and then I went there to study at social admin. And though I came out to be a social worker, and then I became a community worker in Camden. And so I started to work, and I'm still working.
You're now 77 years old. You don't look as if you've got... you look to me as if you've got energy to surge beyond 100.
Well, I have energy, but I don't know whether I live to 100.
Why not?
I tell you, I don't know. If I'm well, I don't mind, yeah? I tell you, 8 years ago, I had cancer. Oh, I was so frightened, you know? I went to this cancer link, and they have lots of people there, all suffering from cancer of different types. And you support each other. And they have all kinds of healers there, spiritual healer, aromatherapy, reflexology, and various things. It's a small room, you know, about twice this size only.
Right.
And then there's a little library. And I love to read books. So I went and looked, and then I saw a book on self-healing. So I brought it back, and I read. This book is very nice. It says self-healing. What do? You do breathing, you do exercise, you visualize, you imagine you have a big black insect inside you, eating up all these cancer cells. How do you like that? Big black insect. I don't like that. So what did I do? I visualized a vacuum cleaner and suck it all up. So I'm well, I'm fine.
So it sucked it all up, is it?
Sucked it all up.
Oh, right.
And I'm perfect, I'm well.
She was so impressed by the techniques she learned that she studied further and now helps other cancer patients at Barnet Hospital. How important is it to remain active once you're past 60, once you're an elderly person?
You see, you mustn't say how important it is. It is important, as I said, you have a body. If you want, let's say a car. You know, my son, he will clean the car, look after the car like anything. They couldn't care less about their body. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? They don't want to do any exercise. They don't want to eat the right food. They don't want to do anything for their body. I don't know whether you call it fortunate or unfortunate. I have too many interests.
Yeah.
Yeah? And I like to read. And then I like to do healing. I like to help people. So if I don't keep myself well, how can I do all these things?
And after all that, she still has energy to spare. Unlike me.
I am exhausted. Mrs. Lim has made me run for the tube. I've had to run down the street. I had to do exercises first thing in the morning. I am exhausted, and I think there's no way I can keep up with this 77-year-old woman.
I'm now on my way to meet Mrs. Seth. She came to London from Kenya in 1966, knowing no English. Yet this didn't stop her making her mark. Even in retirement, she's still at the center of her community.
I helped quite a lot of people in when they came to this country, 68, 70 and also. They didn't have, the ladies had to work, you know, because the financial, they brought nothing here. So we, as far side by side, the English classes were running. I was always telling them that if you have any problem, please tell me. My husband is a lawyer, and if you need anything, we can help you. And she told everybody said that we don't have work, and that is the problem. And then I met them in their home. I said, "Can you do housework?" And say, "Yes, we can do." And then I trained them into housework. You know. And they took this housework. They do this, taken the factory work because they were very afraid of taking factory work, you know, learning, working with English people. And I gave them a lot of confidence. And I went to the factory as well, where there are a lot of work and all sort of thing. I said, please bear in mind that these people hasn't worked there, but if you teach them, they will do the best, you know. And I was with them for twice a week with these ladies, you know, and it made me so happy that I'm doing something to help them.
બીજી વખત કરીએ ત્યારે ઉપર જઈને હાથને ટ્વિસ્ટ કરવાના છે.
What about, I mean, I understand also your husband is still very much active. He hasn't...
Very active, yes, because at 62 he decided to retire or take retirement early.
Right.
And so we had a meeting. I said, let's have a meeting before you retired. How much time you are standing at home? Because I don't want to stay at home and make tea and coffee and things like that. And he said, no, I want to do charity work. That is why I'm retiring.
So the men remain a problem even in retirement?
In retirement, yes. but we always teach women, you know, how to live with men. You know, if they are in house, then there is a problem. But they are not in house much.
Oh, the men
men also go around different clubs, different luncheon club and all that. That is the most important thing here and very helpful.
So why do you teach the women that how to live with the men?
I can't teach men. They are very proud. They are very proud. Yeah.
So the men are very proud, but the women are not?
No. They want to learn all the time. Even you can see our English classes. Women are there. So even still, at age of 65, they come and learn English.
I understand you're involved in other work apart from Sangam itself, or even under Sangam. What about your other charitable activities? Could you tell us about them?
When I run this club, we have about 250 members, senior citizen club. But I thought that this, you know, meetings is not worth until we do some charity work from them, you know, because otherwise they collect that money from their prayers, they send it to India, somewhere in temples and all that sort of thing. I'd say this is not fair. We live in this country, this is our country, and you must help them. And they all agreed when I talked to them all the time, you know, and they said, we must do, what shall we do? So last year, we decided that we must have a target of this charity for the hospitals. When we do the what you call prayers, every Tuesday we have prayers, bhajans means hymns, and they do collection. With this collection, we got £1,000 for Edgeware General Hospital, for a machine for a breast cancer, and 250 pounds for kidney, 250 pounds from Preston Mandir they want to give as well. And last year we about 2,500 or 700 pounds we gave it away in this country. Now they realize, now they realize, because they go to the hospitals here and they get so nice treatment, Nurses are always smiling, doctor is always available, and they experience themselves. Being older people, they go quite often now, and now they understand also, because for 20 years they feel that India is their country and they will come back, go back sometimes, this and that. But now they have decided completely that we want to live in this country, we want to help this country, and we want to do everything possible to help.
It would have been easy to miss somebody like Mrs. Seth. For more than 30 years, she's been working away quietly to empower her community. Not only has she helped by starting English classes, she has done social work and a whole range of other things. Even now, at the age of 65, she feels her work is not yet done. There must be many more Mrs. Seths out there, so maybe we should hear about them.
My last stop is to meet Mr. Coley. He made his name in Scotland when he founded several organizations concerned with the arts and racial equality after he arrived here from Liberia in 1962. Today is his 81st birthday.
Okay, I'm not going to say how old is Mr. Kohli now. Many happy returns of the day, Kohli sir. And to you.
Tell me about this Mill Milap Center. What is it that goes on here and how did it come about?
You see, when I retired, I saw some Asians who retired earlier. They used to sit in the park. When the rain will come, they rush back home. And I saw it was a pity, they have no place to sit. The Sikh temple next door had this. This was an old factory building. So I was on the advisory committee of the Strathclyde region. I told them that if the community agrees, could you make it an urban aid project so that we can build up a center. Community agreed to give this place. I was born in a multicultural society. We came to this country, it became multicultural. So I still continue that spirit. That's why we have a multicultural center, which gives me a pride to have what I used to be back home.
This center remains a valuable resource for the community. After all, we all need places where we can make new friends, learn new things, or even just have a gossip.
If it's that important to you, do you not think then that you might have served your time to return to India?
You
Better
see,
by returning to India.
That's a fallacy. When I go back home, I have to introduce myself. I'm Mr. Kohli, so-and-so's son. Here everybody knows me. So my roots seem to be here now. There I have got good contacts, but I have no base there in India.
What would you say to somebody who reaches the age of 65 and says, right, I'm now retired, it's time to close the window and take the slippers out and just sit at home and watch television?
I'll tell him, if you want to be happy and keep yourself busy, create work for yourself, and that work will keep you young, keep you healthy, and keep you busy. The body becomes slow, but one thing is if you keep your, if you wake up, I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock. Then hear the news, 6 o'clock, I'm away for my walk, 1 hour's walk, 3 days a week I go to swim. Because that thing, if I look up at my diary and I say there's no work to do, okay, let me have a long life. Then my brain will become also inactive. So I get up and see great work for me, and that keeps me going.
What is it that motivates you? Because you said you never really retired.
Yeah.
So what is it that pushes you, that motivates you, that makes you wake up in the morning?
There are two things. One thing is I get full backing from my family. They say, Dad, we are all right. You do whatever you want to do. Second thing is people appreciate. Some people are jealous too, but there are more people who come and tell you, Mr. Kohli, you are doing a good work. That makes me happy and gives me more power to work for the people.
If we follow Mr. Kohli's maxim, the busier we make ourselves, the happier we can be. Who knows, it may even help us live longer. And I doubt many people can argue with that.
We've come to the end of the trip here in Glasgow, and for me it really has been a voyage of discovery. I suppose like many people, I thought once you hit 65, that's it. You just have to lie back and wait for the inevitable. But watching people such as Mrs. Seth, who's continued working away for more than 30 years and still does so even to this day, has given me a feeling that, look, after one part of life is another. All you have to do is to reorganize yourself, and actually there is plenty to do, and actually plenty that can enrich your life and that of the community in which you live.